Hello everyone, welcome to Current Affairs by IS Academy. In this session, we will be discussing about Artemis 2. Okay, so Artemis 2 was actually a space mission that has just been launched by NASA, by America, and it was in news. It showed that there were like 4 astronauts and they are actually going to orbit the moon and they are going to return. Right, so it broke various records. Right, it actually made the first woman who is actually going to the lunar orbit to actually go beyond the low Earth orbit. It also featured the first non-US citizen as well as the first person of color to actually go beyond the low Earth orbit. Okay, so it is actually moving beyond that 1,000-2,000 kilometer orbit of Earth, which is actually what we call as a low Earth orbit, and it's going towards the moon. It will actually revolve around the moon and then it will fly back. Okay, so the first point you need to remember regarding these missions for UPSC prelims is that the original name of the Artemis mission was actually Exploration Mission. So in the question they may simply change the name and ask. Okay, so Exploration Mission refers to the same Artemis mission, and the Exploration Mission is actually the same. Okay, it's actually virtually the same. Okay, now the second important is you need to know is who or what is actually Artemis. Artemis is actually a Greek god. Okay, and actually Artemis is actually the twin sister of Apollo. And Apollo and Artemis are actually twin children of Zeus as well as Leto. Okay, Zeus and Leto. So these are Greek gods, and Artemis is actually the god of the moon, goddess of the moon, hunt as well as untamed wilderness. Okay, sometimes they may ask regarding the what is actually the meaning of the word Artemis. Okay, so before 1970s, US and USSR was actually engaged in a space race. Who is going to reach the moon first? Who is going to land on the moon first? And you had the Apollo missions by US. And US succeeded because if you remember the history, John F. Kennedy promised that we will land in the moon within 10 years in 1960. Then by 1969, before that deadline of 10 years, America landed on the moon 1969 with the Apollo 9, right? So Apollo 11. So remember Apollo 11. So the Apollo set of missions, the entire set of missions was actually aiming to put the humans on the moon. So the Artemis missions is actually a repeat of the Apollo missions, because virtually we are again in the same kind of similar situation, right? US and China is now entering into a space race. So that is the subtle context, subtle background, just like how US and USSR was. Now you have US-China race. So similar to the Apollo missions, now we have the Artemis missions. Okay, so remember Apollo 11 was the 1969 mission where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on the moon. Just remember that. Okay, so their objective. The objective of the Artemis mission is to land humans on the moon after the Apollo 17 missions. So Apollo 17 missions were all manned human missions, and after 1972 this mission, Artemis mission, is trying to put the first human on the moon. So you need to know the targets. Okay, so the target is by 2028 the Artemis missions aim to put a person on the moon. So remember 2028 and remember 2030. 2028 we will have a person. America is saying that they will put a person on the moon. That mission will be called Artemis 4. Okay, Artemis 4, and then by 2030 they are actually trying to establish permanent lunar base by 2030. So these are the targets of the entire Artemis mission. So if you look at Artemis 1 was actually an unmanned mission that was to test primarily the heat shield of the Orion spacecraft. So basically you have a launch vehicle. In the Artemis mission you have a launch vehicle, right? So the launch vehicle and this is actually what we can call as the spacecraft. The spacecraft is what we call as Orion, and the launch system is what we call as Space Launch System. Okay, remember the rocket vehicle the rocket vehicle. Okay, basically like just like our rocket vehicles, our ISRO has various rocket vehicles, like for example PSLV, GSLV, right? So just like that, America is using the Space launch system. Okay, so if you look at the Apollo missions, they used a Saturn. The name of their launch vehicle was Saturn. The launch vehicle for Artemis missions is actually Space Launch System, which has multiple stages, but it is primarily powered by a liquid fuel, liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, and it is supported by two solid rocket boosters. It is their engine is known as RS-25 engine. So these are all terminology that you have to use and connect if any statement actually comes. Okay, so remember Space Launch System. Okay, and the Orion spacecraft. Okay, so we discuss now Artemis 2, which is has it is being in operation today. Artemis 2 basically it is actually going to put the Orion spacecraft to the lunar orbit, and for that it actually uses a idea known as trans-lunar injection. Okay, so basically in this idea, what they do is first they will put it into a transfer orbit like that, which we call as Hoffman orbit. Don't need to go into too much technical details, but just know that it will actually speed up. Okay, in this process, in the trans-lunar injection system, the spacecraft is sped up to larger speeds, and its trajectory will become very elliptical. Okay, will become very elliptical. Okay, so initially the orbit around the Earth, initially the spacecraft around the Earth, the orbit is circular, but when you speed it up, it will become elliptical. Okay, it will become elliptical, and once it become elliptical, it will enter to a point like what they do is that they will calculate where the moon will be at a certain future point, and they will try to put the spacecraft to that future point. Okay, so that is basically the idea of trans-lunar injection. So they will ensure that the spacecraft will get captured by the lunar gravity. Okay, that is basically the idea. So remember, Artemis 3 will be launched by 2027 to test the human launch system as well. Okay, human launch system as well as the lunar lander. Okay, then Artemis 4 will be launched, which aims to put humans on the moon by 2028. Okay, so remember that bit. Then a little bit about Artemis Accords. India is a part of it. It is actually a non-binding framework that actually describes the norms that should be followed by the countries when they are in outer space. Okay, especially regarding the moon and all. Okay, and it's based upon the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. It has 61 countries, remember. Oman is the latest member. Virtually countries from various continents, like for example, most of the countries of Latin America is there, except for Bolivia, and various countries, okay, from Asia, all the continents except Antarctica is actually part of the Artemis Accords. It is non-binding, multilateral regarding the norms. Okay, so that's basically about Artemis Accords. So remember, read about Artemis 1, 2, 3 and 4 as well as the Artemis Accords. Okay, what is the objective, what is the background, what is actually Artemis, what are the different components, etc. It's an expected question for UPSC prelims. Go through it thoroughly. That's all in this session. Thank you.